All right, check the mic. We are live recapping Cowboys Raiders. It's still going on, Sam. It's not over yet.
Yeah, technically.
Taking a knee. It's 33-16 as of now. Dallas going into victory formation before they could even technically run out the clock. But a beatdown. Dallas Cowboys. Dak Prescott throwing 4 touchdowns. George Pickens with 9 catches for 144 yards and a touchdown. Pretty good for a backup wide receiver, George Pickens.
Both of them, George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb, benched for the start of the game. A lot like Abdul Carter, wasn't it this week, who got sat down for the first series? And usually that's the sort of, the coach's discipline. Hey, guys, you did something wrong during the week. Let's get on straight. Otherwise, you're going to be sitting down at the start of the game. When you have multiple infractions, then you start getting into the Keon Coleman world of you're going to sit down for the whole game because you've, missed walkthroughs, practices, whatever it is. So yeah, like a statement from Brian Schottenheimer on both those guys. It was always going to be an interesting game because obviously the whole thing is under the shadow of this whole Marshawn Nealon tragedy and how Dallas was going to react to that. And I was curious how that was going to go going into the game. Dallas's offense came out really flat with those 2 wide receivers bench, but the defense from like play one was lit up. They were fired up. They were ready to play. And honestly, that was a big part of this. The defense was absolutely throttling the Raiders early, and eventually the offense joined the party and went to town with those receivers. But really impressive bounce back performance from the Dallas defense. Really impressive performance given, the tragedy that they dealt with during the week, and a huge bounce back for sort of multiple individual players.
Yeah, absolutely. The Nealon thing, of course, happened all last week. The Cowboys were on their bye. First time we got to see them coming out of that. First time we got to see Quinnen Williams in a Dallas uniform. We saw the return of DeMarvion Overshown, who got hurt last year. Was it Thanksgiving last year where he
like week 14, something like that.
Yeah. And he, he coming from Texas, just always brought a ton of energy to the defense. Malik Hooker came back. And I'll tell you what, that's what's really interesting about this. Like, I don't know if there's a ton of takeaways as far as Dallas's defense and like, did we learn anything? Are they better now? Are they not the worst defense of all time? Well, no, the Bengals are, but Dallas might have a little bit of juice on the defensive line now with Quinnen Williams. Like if we were doing our offseason shows right now and we did our usual, let me just read the 2 deep. Let me just read the depth chart. Like the names in Dallas with guys like Dante Fowler and the trio of Kenny Clark, Quinnen Williams, and Osa Odighizuwa. I think Aikman was saying, hey, let's get all those guys working together in the future here. Let's the mismatches that you can create with this defensive line. I know they've gotten torched this year, both Quinnen Williams coming in and that rotation. They might be able to cause some havoc. Now it's the Raiders tonight. Everybody's called the Raiders havoc, but I'm intrigued by maybe what Dallas could do because this offense is still really good.
Yeah, and look, some of the players on the back end shouldn't have been getting lit up the way they were either. I mean, Deron Bland had an awful game the last time we saw him, and he bounced back with a really good game this time. And he was matched up with guys like Brock Bowers in this game. Like he showed up and wanted to show that he was worth the money they paid him in the offseason. And yeah, like they've got that interior trio of defensive tackles is pretty imposing. They're starting to get real good play out of the rookie Donovan Ezeraku as well. Yep. You have to sort of say, look, that Raiders offensive line is an absolute disaster zone right now. It wasn't good coming into the year, and they've lost the best players from it. So it's just a train wreck. I mean, the safety was a great example of it for both the defensive line and for, the Raiders. Like the absolute best that Genty could have done on that play is not hesitated at all and just gotten out of the goal line. Like that was the best case scenario. Instead, he's like, oh no, I'm dead. Pause for a beat. And by the time he restarted, he couldn't even get out of the end zone. Like that's how badly this offensive line is getting beat on a regular basis.
Genty's stat line, Sam, 6 carries, 7 yards, long run of 11.
Yeah.
So he ran for 11 on one, and then what? -4 on the other 5 carries. Like that sums up Genty's season. Just getting tackled, getting hit in the backfield. It's Raiders are bad, man. I want to talk about how bad the Raiders are in a second, but George Pickens with the 9 catches for 144. CeeDee Lamb also had a touchdown, 5 for 66. They got benched. They came back out. But Pickens this season, man, like we've talked a lot about George Pickens through the years. And I think you and I, we can only see what we see, right? And what we see is a guy that was always used in the vertical game, fades, back shoulders, contested catches, every now and again, right? Remember he took that slant to the house a couple years ago against with Cincinnati, maybe 86 yards. It's like, all right, a little catch and run ability. Can he be a true number one? And I don't think Pittsburgh ever really gave him that opportunity. And all of a sudden in Dallas, he's doing it all, winning short, intermediate, and deep, ball skills. He's like Gumby after the catch right now. His no issues off the field from what we've seen other than getting benched for a series. I don't know. I mean, Pickens looks so maybe something, but the on-field has been outstanding for George Pickens, and what a compliment to CeeDee Lamb. So you don't have to have the 18 target games for CeeDee Lamb anymore.
Yeah, I mean, he looks more dynamic in a bunch of different ways than he was ever given the capacity to do in Pittsburgh. Like, he's still got the ability to make those crazy contortionist sideline catches, and he had one that didn't count in this game, like in the end zone or just before the end zone, where he like caught the ball, falling to the side. Wasn't enough. Like, couldn't get the feet in. The ball was thrown out of bounds, but he's still capable of making those plays. But he's making a lot more of those dynamic run after the catch plays in breaking routes. Like, let him do more. And now you've got, a wide receiver 1 and a wide receiver 1A. And like that group, and even behind those guys, okay, they didn't do anything when those guys were benched for the first series, but like, the guys they've got behind them, Ryan Flournoy is making plays, the tight ends, they've Kevontae Turpin. Okay, he dropped the pass that he could have had, but like they've got some dynamism in that receiving core.
They do, and they've run the ball pretty effectively with Javonte Williams all season. Much better than we've thought. Dak's leading the league in QBR. I put out the stat as well today. 2 teams. So Dallas is 3rd in the league in points per game. It's the only team in the top 17. It's only them it's them and one other team, like with a losing record, that's in like the top 17 in points per game. They're 3rd in points per game. And so said it all season. If the defense can creep back toward average, which I think they have the pieces to do. I said that 4 weeks ago, and they didn't, right. They've had some disappointing games since. If they creep back toward average, they could go on a run, but they have a tough schedule coming up. What you got?
That's a problem. They might be this year's Bengals, though, where it's like, earlier in the season, we were saying the defense can't possibly be this bad, like historically terrible. And maybe it would have been if they hadn't added talent to it, but they've added quite a lot between trades, between getting guys healthy. Like, all of a sudden, you've got a Quinnen Williams, you've got multiple young players coming back on the defensive line. You've got young guys or on the defense overall. You've got young guys like Donovan Ezeraku sort of getting his feet wet after, an adjustment period to the NFL. Like, overall, there's quite a lot of talent that's been added to this defense, in addition to the players that shouldn't have been playing that badly in the first place, probably playing better. So again, it's probably not going to be a good defense at any point, but if it just gets to the stage where it's not like, they were the team that had those records of like, this is the first team in 20 years that's been able to put up 35 points, 3 straight games and lost because the defense is even worse. Like,
right.
It's them and the Bengals, right? The Bengals defense isn't getting any better, but Dallas's might be. And if it's able to get just even below average, it might be enough for that offense to win a bunch of games.
And Dak Prescott's played some of the best football of his career this year. He looked great, 4 touchdowns, should have had 5. CeeDee Lamb dropped one late as well. So the offense looks outstanding. One other dynamic on the Pickens thing and how good he's looking. Remember, he was traded for a 3 in a contract year. So we know not a lot of big names hit free agency these days. You get 1 or 2. Pickens is going to hit free agency. So you always have that contract year worry. Is he just focused? Is he just going to get this? Is he just trying to get this big payday? He's got his head on straight for 1 more year. But man, the number of teams that could use the alpha number 1 or 1A and what Pickens could do, especially a certain few teams that they're missing the outside receiver, the guy that can win at all levels on the outside. It's got to be intriguing seeing what he's putting on film this year, which is, I think, more than what he's done in Pittsburgh. He showed flashes of it in Pittsburgh, but it's been just a better all-around game from George Pickens, and I think it has to have some teams thinking, can we give him 4 years, as a free agent, or Dallas just re-upping him as well, now that they have him in the building.
Either, rewarding him for the season he has or trying to keep him around on a franchise tag or something. Yeah, I wouldn't rule out the idea that Jerry Jones tries to keep him around after the season he has if he continues this kind of run.
Raiders came out and they threw like 22 straight or whatever, 22 out of 24 of the first plays. It was like the old school Tom Brady in New England. Hey, we can't run the ball again. We're just going to chuck it around, except they're doing it with Geno Smith, and it wasn't really working all that well. Now they couldn't run at all.
Yeah.
Geno Smith, the leading rusher with 14 yards, but pass heavy game plan for the Raiders, and they just don't look good on either side of the ball.
No, I mean, like I said, that offensive line is a disaster. I mean, they came out passing. There are people like, why won't they just run the ball? Well, they tried to run the ball later, and every time they did, I mean, he's literally getting buried before he gets the handoff. It's like, asking Geno Smith to drop back 45, 50 times in a game against a defense that was showing up to play was probably not going to work. It was probably more likely to work than whatever was going to work with Ashton Jeanty. Like if they just run him 30 times in this game, he would have gotten 45 yards and they wouldn't have gone anywhere. So it wasn't a good game plan, but it was probably the best they had available to them.
Brock Bowers had a few catches. He had 7, Jeanty with 6, and then, short passes had a drop in there. Like I thought that the Raiders would be better. I thought they'd be more competitive. I thought there'd be games where you at least felt the first rounders, felt Brock Bowers and Ashton Jeanty. You just feel like, hey, the Raiders aren't there yet. They have some holes, but get some pieces around them and support Jeanty and support Bowers, and Geno can spread the ball around. And I thought we would feel that in some games this year. And outside of like 1 or 2 games, we haven't felt any of that.
Yeah, I do think though that we with Brock Bowers back in the lineup, I think we would be if it wasn't for the fact that their offensive line now reads Jordan Meredith, Will Putnam, Stone Forsythe, Dylan Parham, and DJ Glaze. Like it's just not going to work. You can't, you know what I mean? You've taken a line that was already pretty weak, but had a couple of good players from it, and you've taken the good players away, and now it's just weak everywhere.
I mean, we had this to talk around draft time. There was a few times we gave them Armand Membu, the right tackle that went to the Jets. Right. 1 pick later, said, shore up that line. DJ Glaze, yeah, he's an okay tackle, but he can play a little guard. He could be your swing tackle. You have Membu and Colton Miller, who's hurt now. Maybe that's the play, longer-term play for the Raiders. They went with the running back first. You always make that point. If the run game isn't there, the running back doesn't fix it in the first round. If the line is there, the running back can elevate it, make it look that much better. Clearly, the line wasn't there last year. They were historically bad running the ball the first half of the season. The line isn't there this year. Even when they have been healthy, it's still been rough up front, even with JPJ, even with Colton Miller when they've been healthy. And so you're starting to feel that as well. You have a 6th overall running back, and he can't overcome what they have up front.
And Membu obviously would have made the offensive line better. He looks really good so far in the NFL. But it wouldn't matter now. Like it would have been fine.
No, I know.
Like that would have been interesting when Colton Miller and JPJ are there, and you've got Membu. Now you're talking about like 3/5 of an offensive line that's in good shape. 4 if you think that Dylan Parham can get back to his best play. Now you got something to work with, and you can probably plug a lot of running backs back there and get some run game. But the problem is now, like, even if you had Membu, it would be like Membu and 4 guys that are struggling.
All right, man. So Dallas, like we said, the schedule coming up for them, they've got Philadelphia at home, rematch from week 1. Then they have their Thanksgiving game with Kansas City coming to town. And then they have the following Thursday. They've been doing this. They did this a couple of years ago, I think. Dallas and Detroit playing I don't know. They're playing the following Thursday after Thanksgiving. So they go to Detroit. So it's a rough 3-game stretch. I would love to say, coming out of the bye, coming out of the tragedy, the addition of Quinnen Williams, the return of a couple players, maybe this Dallas defense can be better. It was against the Raiders. They look good for now. We'll see what they do against Philadelphia, Kansas City, and Detroit over these next 3 weeks. But they're 4-5-1 now. And so, you can still make a run. Every year there's one of these teams that, like, at this time of year, we're like, are they good? They're 4-6. They're 4-5. Can they make 4-5-1 is in the hunt, Sam. They're in the hunt. They got to beat some good teams in these next few weeks.
Yeah, and again, like the Bengals a year ago, they might be leaving it late and kind of be coming up on the rail at the end of the season. Like their last 4 games are all pretty winnable. So if they can just snatch, even if they lose 2 of the next 3, if they can just snatch 1 win and just stay alive and then win, their last 4 games, that might get them to at least the front, like the threatening edges of the playoff hunt, and maybe put like backdoor in on the last day of the season if the 7th seed ends up screwing up at the death. Obviously, if they win 2 of the next 3, then we're in real business. But even if they manage to lose 2 of the next 3, if they can just sneak 1 win against one of those teams, particularly against Philadelphia, then they could still be alive all the way to the death.
Still alive. All right, that's it for us tonight. It's been a long day, a lot of fun. If you missed our review show, be sure to check that out. Went for about 3.5 hours this morning, and we've got Mina Kimes joining the show on Wednesday. Be on the lookout for that. The best way to do that is hit the subscribe button. Make sure you get all the updates here on the YouTube channel. And we'll see you Wednesday with more. Check the mic.